When we stepped off of the plane, Africa felt like home. It felt like this is where I was supposed to be.
For the second year in a row, Mt.Gilead deploys a mission team to Kiserian, Kenya, led by Pastor Julian Dangerfield of Shalom Outreach and Bishop Daniel Robertson Jr. We are back to strengthen the Shalom Community Church planted last year and to encourage the Maasai people.
The Maasai people are very strong people. To see the atmosphere that they live in and where they live in Kenya is mountainous, very rocky, very dry. They said I think it hadn't rained for a whole year before we got there. And the conditions they live in, they have to be very strong people. And they're warrior people. They're a warrior tribe.
And a tribe known for their energetic praise.
They move constantly, jumping and dancing and just praising God in their own way. But there's a real genuineness to it, because to a certain degree, that God is all they have sometimes. So they really give their hearts.
During our first few days on the ground, the team mounts the van and splits up into different groups.
Some groups were centered around evangelism, which is to go door to door, and we were dispersed in those areas to be able to go out and share the gospel.
There was one place where we went where it was a street corner where the taxis, the motorcycle taxis, would pick up and drop off people. But there was even one young man whose mother told him, before the day is over, God is going to use somebody to speak into your life to tell you that you need to stop playing with him. And to see that God would take me all the way from the United States to Africa to be able to minister to somebody using my testimony right at that specific moment, that was amazing.
And then on another occasion, as we were walking down the path, we encountered a gentleman, and we were sharing with him about the love of Jesus and how God sent his son that died for us. And we offered him the plan of salvation, and he immediately accepted and lifted his hands up. And we prayed with him, and he smiled, and he said that he was going to be at Shalom on that Saturday. He would be there. And a matter of fact, when we finished, he just took off running. So we just stood there and we praised and we thanked God because someone gave their life unto God.
Later in the week, Pastors Peter and Emma Olanapa host a leadership conference for area pastors, with Bishop Robertson serving as the featured speaker. And with great anticipation, Maasai pastors flock from all over to attend.
And it's not as if they were walking from around the corner. It is our understanding that some walked as far as 5 miles or more just to come to hear that word.
They put Jesus in a borrowed tomb. They put guards in front of the tomb. But on Sunday morning, when they went in the tomb, he was not there.
Bishop really ministered the word in a way that they could grasp from a standpoint of being warriors, and how the word of God isn't just for people in America. They can use those same principles over in Africa.
During the leadership conference, we also hold a community day in which we give out hundreds of items. Everyone walks away with something.
The pastors received a backpack. You would have thought that you had given them a gold mine. When they received their backpack that had a notebook and a pencil in it, they took it and they put it over their shoulder and they just smiled. The biggest smile you could think of. We had the different school supplies, and we had clothing, we had things for the ladies, and how they went through with such an excitement picking up those things, and they just valued those things. And the kids were excited for the notebooks, and they had pencils, there were dresses, there were jackets. There was just so many options for them to choose from.
We also give out more than $2,500 worth of food. At one point during the conference, the women and children leave the main worship service for separate ministry sessions.
The children had the opportunity to go with us to the school that's in the village. And that's when we ministered to them. That particular day, about 20 of those kids gave their lives to Christ. I mean, it was so amazing. I asked them to recite the salvation prayer, and they did it in English. So I heard them say it, and it was so amazing. They were so willing to give their life to Christ that day.
One of the most memorable moments happens under a tent with the Maasai women. As we listen to their concerns and pray, the glory of God falls. There is no language barrier as we minister spirit to spirit.
There was a rumbling in the tent, and the thing we were showing forth is the love of God. Everyone in the tent, we began to pray, and we began to hold hands, and we cried together, and we hugged each other. We loved on each other. And the same God that loves us is the same God that loves them, and he's there with them. No matter what it is that they go through, that God is there with them.
The man of God had declared that every gift that was on this trip was going to be used in very unique ways, and being able to see a culmination of that was very impactful. Minister Amy herself, the Lord used her tremendously in the area of praise dance, right? And so I think in this church, I don't think they really have seen that in times past, and so to be able to see how God flowed through her.
While we use our gifts to bless the Maasai people, God brings an even bigger blessing to the town of Kiserian: rain.
It did not rain just the first day. It rained the second day, the third day, the fourth day. Every day we were there, I believed it rained.
The Lord sent abundance of rain, which means that the animals get to survive a lot longer, which means that the families get fed a lot more, which also means that the seed that they had planted this time around gets to produce fruit, because we had been told in times prior they planted seed and nothing came up because of the drought. So to God be the glory.